Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is the UFO Cocktail. And as always, it is the featured cocktail in today's episode. I'm going to start. Shake it with ice. To that, we're going to add vodka. 1 ounce of vodka. Next, dry vermouth. 1 ounce. Once again, boys and girls. Orange curaçao. 1/3 of an ounce. Third of an ounce. And finally, Campari. Another 1/3 of an ounce. Next, we shake. Then we take our rocks glass and old-fashioned glass, strain the liquid in. Now I'm going to garnish with an orange slice. There you have it, boys and girls, the UFO. Not bad. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
I've been around a lot of scientists in my day, and I can tell you with almost 100% accuracy, scientists are not fashion forward, or even fashion conscious. So imagine my surprise while watching this week's movie on the Scary Spirits podcast, The Thing from Another World. The main scientist, although villainous, sports what looks like a smoking jacket and some very distracting patterned pants. Well, distracting to me. Greg didn't even notice. Do you think that's a fashion thing, a science thing, or just a Greg thing? Hard to tell. But I'd like to say, wear what you want when you want. Patterned pants and all. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hi everyone, I'm Greg.
Hello, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm feeling fabulous, Greg. How are you?
I'm good, Karen. Thank you for asking.
It is what we do.
I need to remind everyone once again that we have changed the format a little bit. So if you haven't already, please let us know if you like the changes or not.
send us an email at info@scaryspirits.com and let us know your feelings.
Sorry,
Tell us your feelings.
because that's what we love, feelings, especially Greg. Hey, before we start, though, I wanted to mention something.
Go on, Karen.
Well, we put out a newsletter.
We
And if you
do.
haven't subscribed, you can do that at scaryspirits.com.
We do.
And
Monthly.
we've gotten some feedback. Yes, it's monthly, that we tend to say some similar things over and over and over again. So in the newsletter this month, which has been out for a while, but you can still get it if you subscribe, there is a bingo card. So you can follow along and then let us know if you got bingo.
Probably not too difficult, Karen.
No, because someone just got a square right then.
I know, right?
But yeah, sign up for the newsletter. There's lots of fun stuff in there.
Lots of information. And I should thank Karen for doing that because that's her kind of, it's kind of her baby, right?
Yeah, so sign up today.
And we won't send you a bunch of crap. We'll send you one email once a month, the beginning of the month. That's it.
Yeah, it tells you what birthdays are this month of the famous horror people, what episodes we're doing, what drinks we're doing, fun facts.
Movies that have come out, that month in history. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be a hit at all the parties if you read that.
You'll have all kinds of useless information to win bar bets at.
Yes. That's what we love. Good, useless information.
All right. I believe this film was it my choice, Karen?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Film I have chosen, Karen, is The Thing from Another World from 1951. Would you like to know why I chose that film, Karen?
Of course. We're all waiting.
Because we saw John Carpenter's The Thing, and I wanted to see the original.
So this is
to
a
compare
Karen choice.
And contrast.
You just wanted to watch it, so you put it on the list.
Yep. I just wanted to watch it.
Well, I am in full support of that decision.
I have a cocktail as well, Karen, in case you were wondering.
Well, I'm already sipping it. What is it?
It is called the UFO Cocktail.
Clever.
See what I did there, Karen?
I follow.
Would you like to know how to make it, even though you've already made it, Karen?
Well, everybody would like to know how to make it.
That's true. So we're going to need 1 ounce of vodka, 1 ounce of dry vermouth, 1/3 ounce orange curaçao, and 1/3 ounce Campari, as well as ice. And recipe calls for orange zest, but I just used an orange slice because I will do what I want. Basically, we're going to mix all the liquor in a cocktail shaker with ice and then strain into I'm using an old-fashioned glass, I think, with ice.
Yeah. So remember, you keep asking, why do we shake it with ice and then we strain it into a glass with ice?
Yes.
Well, Greg, I have found your answer.
Do tell.
Shaking breaks down ice considerably, sometimes reducing the cubes to half their size. The fresh cubes in the serving glass will last much longer than the shaker ice, helping to avoid watered down drinks. Because I wanted to know why we were straining an ice-filled drink without chunks in it. If there are chunks, I get it. You strain.
Ice cubes do not break down like that. They're not. No, they do not. So I call BS, but whatever.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe because I'm not using fancy restaurant or bar ice. I'm using like the big freaking cube.
Or maybe you're just too weak to shake it properly.
It's true. I am old and feeble, Karen. I can't help it. I try, Karen.
It's not your fault, but maybe you're just not shaking the shit out of it like you're supposed to.
All right. I'll try harder, Karen. And as a reminder, you can watch me make all the cocktails on our YouTube channel as well. So you can watch me shake and tell me if I'm shaking it hard enough or not.
Okay. Get on it.
Should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own cocktail, Karen? Their own UFO cocktail?
Of course.
First, I will say I found this recipe on cocktailsandshots.com, which is an awesome website title, I think.
Yes. Can't go wrong with that.
And in the recipe, it mentions something about the Foo Fighters, which I thought was a little interesting. A little trivia about the Foo Fighters. You know that the term Foo Fighters, the band, the Foo Fighters, Karen, are you familiar?
I am.
That term was used by Allied aircraft pilots in World War II to describe various UFOs or mysterious aerial phenomena seen in the skies.
I even knew that.
Did you?
I
I had no
did.
idea what a fucking Foo Fighter was. And I've already used the F word. 3 of them, as a matter of fact, right there in a row.
Yes.
Sorry, that's not a bingo space.
But it should be. Maybe we'll mix it up.
All right. Everybody go make their own UFO cocktail or any cocktail you want. We don't care. You do you, right, Karen?
Yes.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us?
I do.
Go on, tell us all the story.
When scientist Dr. Carrington reports a UFO near his North Pole research base, the Air Force sends in a team under Captain Patrick Hendry to investigate. What they find is a wrecked spaceship and a humanoid creature frozen in the ice. They bring their discovery back to the base, but Carrington and Hendry disagree over what to do with it. Meanwhile, the creature is accidentally thawed and begins wreaking havoc.
Thank you, Karen, for that brief and accurate synopsis, I would say.
I agree.
All right, Karen, tell us, what did you enjoy about this film? Anything you were pleasantly surprised by?
I liked the story. I thought the set was good. There's only one.
Well, it's one building.
Pretty much one, yeah. I thought the acting was good for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of it.
It's kind of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you? What did you like?
So I was curious because I really liked John Carpenter's The Thing when we watched it. So like I said, I wanted to watch this one to compare. And it's quite a bit different than Carpenter's. And in my research, of course, I was going to say, oh, John Carpenter, he changed it to do this. But he, made it so much better. But really, all Carpenter does is he is more true to the source material.
Yes. Do you want the information on the source material?
It's based on a novella, I believe, called Who Goes There, right?
Yes.
Go on, tell us all about it.
From 1938. Well, I'll just... because this movie is very different from the novella, however you say it.
This movie, this one is, but Carpenter's is more like the...
Yes.
Okay.
Which was surprising because usually that's not how it goes. But Who Goes There is the title, and it's a 1938 science fiction horror novella by American author John Campbell. He wrote it under the pen name Don A. Stewart. Its story follows a group of people trapped in a scientific outpost in Antarctica infested by shape-shifting monsters able to absorb and perfectly imitate any living being, including humans. It was first published in the August 1938 issue of Astounding Science Fiction magazine, and then also printed as The Thing from Another World. And these are the 2 films that we've watched. The Thing from Another World and The Thing by John Carpenter are the 2 movies that they say have been directly adapted from this source material.
Okay. So I found it interesting that this was very different than The Thing. I will say I was a little confused at some points because they referred to the military men as Army, right? When they were clearly flying USAF, like Air Force planes. So I kind of looked that up. So prior to 1947, it was the Army Air Force. It was one.
That's true. Yes.
It was the Army Air Force. And then in 1947, they separated and the Air Force became its own entity. But this came out in 51. So I was a little confused.
I did notice that too. The only thing that I kind of reconciled it a little bit.
One of the characters is a corporal, and there are no corporals in the U.S. Air Force. So they must be all Army. And our hero, Captain Hendry, is wearing
a cap that has an army insignia on it. I noticed as
Okay.
well.
Okay. Yeah, I was confused by that also. I mentioned it because
So
I know that military branches don't like when you confuse them.
yes.
I'm sure you're well aware.
Yes, I am.
So that's why it stood out to me.
Yeah, me too. So I thought that was interesting. Also,
Well, maybe they're setting it. The book came out in 1938.
that's
Although they
true.
had some technology that I don't know if it, but maybe they were setting it further back when
Yeah,
that was still true.
true. But I mean, it is set. They do mention Harry Truman as president, Karen. So that pretty
Oh,
much tells us when it happens right there. Right?
all right. Well, I don't know.
Of course, I don't know off the top of my head when Truman was president. Do you, Karen? I bet
No,
you do. Because you're
no,
wicked.
that's your kind
You're
of
wicked
thing,
smart like that.
not on history or geography. And don't make me spell anything either.
Okay, Truman was the 33rd president of the United States, serving from 45 to 53. So
That's right in there.
it could be 45, and they would have been the Army Air Force at that point. All right, so
Let's just go with that.
I'm going to give them a pass on that. I liked that you didn't really see the thing.
You did?
I did a little bit.
You totally see it
I'm torn
multiple times.
Well, but you don't get a good glimpse of it.
It walks towards them.
I know, but you don't get a good glimpse of it. You don't really. It's in shadows the whole time. It almost looks like Frankenstein from Universal Frankenstein.
Yes, it absolutely does.
And it's played by James Arness, who is a big man. I'm assuming that's why he played him. Because he ain't got no lines, Karen. And of course, we know James Arness from Gunsmoke.
Do we?
Marshall Matt Dillon. Yes, we do, Karen. I agree the sets were good. It's hard to look back after seeing John Carpenter's The Thing and then watching this. You know what I mean? I might have liked it a lot more if I hadn't seen Carpenter's already.
Absolutely. I agree. That's one thing I was going to say. I didn't like, if we had watched them in reverse order, I think we would have appreciated both of them much more. But having watched the other one first and then this one pales.
It does.
And it's kind of goofy or not. It's kind of silly a little bit. I don't know.
It is kind of. So I think that if I hadn't seen John Carpenter's first, I may have appreciated more the, I guess, claustrophobic, the, nature of it. You know what I mean? Like
I guess, but I didn't really feel that in this one.
I didn't either, but that's
I was
what I'm saying. If I
expecting
would have seen it first, maybe I would have.
It's hard to say that I was disappointed in this because I had such high expectations going in.
I did too.
That I thought it was going to just be this tense, just like John Carpenter's The Thing, and it just pales. I mean, there's no real tension in it. I never felt like anyone.
No, there's
afraid.
There's more talk about ladies and dames, and there's tension.
Oh my God, that's one thing I didn't like.
And it has this whole like romantic love interest thing, which is definitely not in Carpenter's thing.
No, and they play it there. It's just like that was a very popular trope in movies back then, that banter between a male and a female where they act like they don't like each other.
And then all the males are talking about, ladies and dames. And
yes, it's silly. And another thing I'll just bring up.
Giving the captain shit about,
Yeah.
Because they all know that he likes Nikki. Who is the top in the credits? She's the top billing in the credits. The girl, Nikki, the secretary, Nikki.
Are they in alphabetical order? But one of the other things I didn't really like was this I think it's in the summary where they say Carrington and Hendry disagree over what to do with it. Freaking constantly. Like it's a constant.
It's not in alphabetical order, Karen. I just looked it up.
But those two alpha males constantly butting heads. Who's in charge? Who's in charge? It was so. I just got tired of it every time.
Were you upset because the military won and took control of the scientists, Karen, and bossed them around and told them what to do.
No, because it's funny. At one point in my notes, I wrote, the scientist looks like a villain.
He does.
And he was not
He
making...
even has the whole widow's peak thing, right?
Yes. So it's like he had fake hair even. But
it looks like it gets grayer as it goes on. But
they aren't making wise choices, which I think is kind of a view of science, especially back then, was getting out of control, and they're going to clone thing. You know, there's always this section of society that doesn't trust science and thinks they're going to go too far. And it's interesting that the scientist...
It ain't natural, Karen. It's not the way the God wanted it.
It's like Spock. It's where he's expounding on, you know, how superior this race is because they don't have feelings. They don't have to deal with any hindrances that have to do with morals or feelings or anything else. And I think that's
or sexuality,
kind of
Karen,
how people view science sometimes. But there are rules in science. You can't do whatever you want. But I thought that was a little cut and dry, the good and evil. I mean, the scientist had some points. He just went way too far. You know, I get that. But it would have been interesting to be able to study what, you know, the creature, for lack of a better word, or the alien.
Yeah, let's kill it and dissect it, Karen.
But not the way he did it. So, you know,
isn't that what most scientists want to do nowadays anyway?
Well, I don't know what they would do if it was alive. Would they kill it and dissect it?
Yes.
I don't know if they would. I don't think so.
I think that's a big difference between films in the 50s and films now. And even I was looking in the Robin Wood book, from Professor
Craig.
Dr. Craig, yes, for Dr. Craig's source material for his horror class that he teaches. And he references it, he compares it to Alien a lot, which I can see, you know. And he also mentions that unlike most monsters in horror films, this is a completely unsympathetic monster. Like usually you have some sympathy. There's some, you know, we feel bad for Frankenstein, right?
But do we feel bad for Dracula? I guess sometimes they want him to, he mourns not seeing the sun rise and he's cursed and all that.
Yes. But we get none of that from this.
No, that's true.
And he also, in one of his essays, mentions the difference between the military in charge and the scientists in charge. And like today, I think, well, he says then the military was shown as a more favorable character than they are today. Like today in most horror movies, the military is not a favorable character, the scientists are in those kind of films, right?
But nobody listens to the scientists. That's why we get in trouble. That's true, though. When the military shows up, it's never good. It's kind of like a priest in a movie.
Today, it's never good.
Yes, it's never good. But I'm sure they were
back then. I mean, this is right after World War II.
So it's not propaganda, but it's sort of is, you know.
You know, we loved our military then for saving our asses from the Nazi threat.
We still love our military.
I know, but we do, Karen. But does Hollywood?
Well, I'm sure they do, but they need a villain.
Do they?
And I don't know. I'm not in Hollywood, and I haven't polled everyone there. But
all right. Anything you didn't like, or is there more that you would like to talk about?
I think we kind of went over it. You know, I think it's just, I thought it was slow. I thought it was kind of silly what they came up with.
It was a slow burn.
They're kind of talking about it being a carrot with a brain.
A plant
species,
plant-based.
Which is okay, but it just seems silly. No, like how do we kill a vegetable? And then they come up with a plan. So it's kind of silly.
I kind of like that part where they talked about it evolved from plants.
Yes, that's
like
not
we
bad.
Evolved from.
And like we mentioned, there's no tension. Nobody seems all that
There's
concerned.
tension between the Carrington and the captain.
That's it, though.
But that's it.
And the scientists follow the scientist, and the military follows the military. I will say again, there were too many characters for me to keep straight who was who. which
I didn't even try.
I find frustrating. So
I knew
just
who
keep
Nikki
saying,
was. I knew who the captain was. I knew who Dr. Carrington was. I know who Scotty was. That's all I
yeah, but
really
there's a
care
medical
about.
doctor, and then
There
there's,
is.
I just couldn't keep track of who was who. So I
And
just
there's a
kind of said,
Dr. Voorhees in there. Because
well,
at
he's
one point
probably
they
the
say over the
botanist.
intercom, Dr. Voorhees, come, blah, blah, blah. That character is played by Paul Frees, although it's uncredited. And when
Well,
I saw that, I'm like, Voorhees. Where have I heard that name before? Voorhees.
Wasn't that Jason?
Yes. So I thought surely the guy who came up with the first Friday the 13th used Voorhees as a ode to this film, right? But no, he didn't. He knew some girl in elementary school, last name Voorhees, and he thought it sounded spooky. So that's why he used it. But Paul Frees, Karen, you know who Paul Frees is, of course, don't you?
Of course, but remind me.
He's a famous Disney voice actor. His voice is heard a whole bunch in when you go to Disneyland or Disney World and get on the Haunted Mansion ride.
Oh, okay.
Paul Frees is featured prominently. And I believe he was also the voice of Tigger, actually.
Oh, your spirit animal.
If you only knew how true that was, Karen. So I found that interesting.
They do mention there are a lot of different doctors. There's a physicist, a botanist, biologist. There's a bunch of them. But there's definitely two camps. They definitely don't get along. But it's mostly the leaders that they constantly butt heads. The rest of them seem fine with everyone else. They just do what their specific leader tells them to do.
Yep. And even some of the scientists they're not so sure that Carrington
yeah, he's gone
knows
a little,
what he's talking about.
cuckoo. Yeah, he gets a little cuckoo. And they do at the end kind of solve that problem.
Yeah,
but
kind of warn the military about Carrington. And he does look like a villain, like you said. Right. Anything else you didn't like?
No, the creature was fine. But
like I say, you don't really see it very much.
But I don't know. Like I said, I just expected way too much from this film.
I did too.
And I think my disappointment is proportionate to that. And I feel bad about it because if I hadn't gone in with that attitude, I probably would have said it was fine. And I know a lot of people really like it and think it's great. I think we ruined it by watching the other one first.
Well, it's not The Thing. I'm sorry, it's not.
It doesn't even seem like a precursor because
it doesn't. And that's why
the novel is closer to the other one. So I don't know.
I wrote everyone's, names, and I even made in my notes, I'm like, ooh, so-and-so is left alone with the thing. So I thought, I was expecting
them to become infected and all that. Yeah, nothing happens.
No, it doesn't.
So it's a little anticlimactic, I think.
It does share some dead dogs with the thing, though, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. At the time, films like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and this one, there seems to be a fear of aliens at that time. So this is
communist, Karen. McCarthyism.
Well, okay. Yes, but they're using that metaphor a lot in these films at this time. So I think it fits the time well. I think was sequel potential, which I like. If someone saved one of the plants or something, you could have another one. I always enjoy that, but they didn't show that. I like the ones where they show that that's going to happen, or it's so obvious because we don't see them destroy everything. They just say they do.
Yeah, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I just looked it up, is from 1956. So it is after this. And I was kind of wondering, well, maybe they didn't want to, redo that kind of that trope where who you think is so-and-so is really not so-and-so,
Yeah, but it was after, so.
It was, so.
They didn't utilize that at all. They went completely off script.
They did.
And not in a good way, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
I don't think it's a bad story overall. I think if it wasn't called The Thing, I think it could have been called The Vegetable or something. I don't know. But as a
Vegetable
story.
from outer space.
Right. The carrot with a brain.
The horror.
If it was marketed as something else, I think we would have liked it just fine.
Yep.
It probably would have gotten the same rating from me, but I think I wouldn't have been as frustrated with it.
Speaking of rating, Karen, how many cocktails you want to give this film?
I think it's a 3.
I agree.
But I was expecting a 2.
I was too. I think we gave John Carpenter's The Thing a 2.
I'm sure we did. But on its own, it's a fine movie. It's well written, I think. I think it's well done. It's just not what I expected it to be. That's all. That's the only thing that I can say made me disappointed in it.
And watching it now, you get all that 50s dialogue and it's kind of hokey.
Yes, but it's very much of the times. You get the male-female interaction of that sparring, but they really love each other. And, just like you said, the military is built up and all that. You get all that stuff, and that's all fine, and it's all good, and it's a good movie from that time. I just don't think it is the thing.
No, it is not. It is not the thing. All right, 3 cocktails. So I will say, Karen, that this has a 7.1 out of 10 rating on IMDb, 87% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and 89% of Google users enjoyed this film. Now, I know it does have a cult following and whatnot, but I do have one review from the time, Karen, if you are interested.
Oh, I am. Is it from Roger Ebert?
It is not.
That's
Karen.
Another one we should put on the bingo card. What do you got? Critics Corner.
I have a review from the New York Times, Karen.
Fancy.
From May 3rd, 1951. And I will paraphrase. Well, it arrived yesterday at the Criterion. Must be a theater. And it certainly is something. The Thing, as Howard Hawks calls his new movie, is quite a show, folks. Not since Dr. Frankenstein wrought his mechanical monster has the screen had such a good time dabbling in scientific fiction. The thing which we encounter in The Thing is a vegetable phenomenon with human form which lives on animal life. That means us, the film says, and is impervious to bullets. We can tell you this much, the thing doesn't like fire or electricity, not in lethal doses anyway. Mr. Hawks has developed a movie that is generous with thrills and chills and comes up with just enough light, bantering dialogue, the kind of desperate wit which acts as a safety valve under pressing circumstances so that the film does not appear to take itself too seriously. Producer Hawks and his director draw a full measure of suspense out of the delayed emergence of the thing from a huge ice block encasing it. The film is full of unexpected thrills as the head scientist, a Nobel Prize winner no less, wants to protect and study the find, and the army lads just want to stay alive. They have a tough job doing that because the thing is anxious to live too and has the same fondness for blood as we have for milk, Karen. In the course of things, the picture gets in a few fast, sarcastic jibes at military bureaucracy and draws a laugh at President Truman's expense. The thing is played by a group of people who won't be familiar to moviegoers, but several of them probably won't be unfamiliar for too long. Adults and children can have a lot of old-fashioned movie fun at the thing, but parents should understand their children and think twice before letting them see this film if their emotions are not properly conditioned, Karen. New York Times.
It was more of a factual review rather than a I liked it or didn't like it, didn't you think?
Yes, it is. I mean, they make you say unexpected thrills, and
it's on the more positive bent.
It is. It's a positive review, I would say. Generous with thrills and chills, and just enough light bantering dialogue, so the film doesn't appear to take itself too seriously. So I think overall, I think they liked it. But they hadn't seen John Carpenter's The Thing, had they, Karen?
No, they had not.
All right, so we're going to give it 3 cocktails. Are you ready to get into the film, Karen?
Yes.
Scene by scene. Did you watch this on Amazon Prime, Karen?
I did not. I watched it on Tubi TV.
Tubi TV.
It was free with only one 30-second ad in it.
Okay. I did watch it on Amazon Prime. So I paid for it.
Well, we'll see if it's any different.
Thing from Another World from 1951. There were really no warnings or a rating. Is that?
I didn't see anything, but I don't know how this normally
but there was
does
an
it.
R down in the corner with a circle. But so I thought rated R, but that could have been a registered trademark, an RKO picture. So that's probably what it was. So I don't think it was rated R. I don't think there were ratings in 1951 like that. Were there?
I don't know. I didn't go to the movies in 1951.
Come on. Okay, Karen. Sure you didn't. We believe you.
You're mean tonight.
Right. So the motion picture rating system started in 68. So they had G, M, R, and X. In 70, they had G, GP, R, and X. So I think this was probably a GP, don't you think? If I had to guess.
Yeah, I would say
at the time. But we do see it's an RKO radio picture. Of course,
mine said from Winchester Pictures.
Well, it's an RKO radio picture. Then it's a Winchester Pictures Corporation. And we all recognize the RKO from Rocky Horror Picture Story,
yes.
Of course, Karen.
Yes.
And then the title burns through the credits.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
Which I like, which is very similar to the thing. Carpenter did the same thing. That's the part that we see in the original Halloween, too, when they're watching it on TV. And we see it's in the credits, it's based on the story, who goes there. And we have credits. And apparently we're in an officers club in Anchorage, Alaska, Karen. Officers are in there smoking and playing poker, but nobody's drinking. Karen, did you notice that?
Oh, I didn't. But now that you say it, I did.
There's no alcohol use in this film at all. And who we learn is Scotty enters, and apparently he is a reporter. He's a newspaper man, Karen.
Well, when I saw him walk in, I thought he is not dressed for that weather.
No, he's not throughout the whole movie. He's wearing that same stupid coat.
It's like a camel coat and a, what do you call those hats?
Toque?
No, they were everyday 1950s hats.
Okay. Yes, it was a fedora.
Fedora. That's what I couldn't think of that word. So I thought, oh my God, are they all going to be in these outfits? This is going to be ridiculous. But no, he's a newspaper man. He's come there to get a story. So
get a story.
He's not properly prepared.
And right here I wrote, they keep talking about girls and dames, Karen.
Yep. There's talk a lot about dames and girls.
And then they discuss a group of scientists at the North Pole. And
they say there's a convention up at the North Pole. I thought, what a terrible place to have a convention.
And then they get a message from Dr. Carrington at the North Pole, and he wants a team to come to investigate an airplane which crashed near them. They send Captain Hendry up there and his men, and of course,
they do say
pack of dogs as well.
They talk about the aircraft. They say it's not one of ours. It's not Canadian, but it could be Russian. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. Which is interesting because at the time we were allies. It's right after World War II, right? But whatever. Don't trust them. Russians. And their communist ways. Yeah, so Captain Hendry takes his men and a team of dogs, I guess I should say, not a pack, a team of sled dogs. Were they huskies, Karen? They look like huskies to me.
They looked like Malamutes to me. They were bigger than huskies.
And they take Scotty with them so he can maybe get a story. And on their way to the North Pole, they discuss Commander Perry, Karen, which we talked about in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, didn't we?
We did. They say he only stayed for a little while and left, and he has all kinds of medals, and they have to go up there all the time.
Don't they make another comments about girls? And
they do, but they also say something about the pilot because he must have crashed something, and he said it was necessary. So they make him out to be a little bit of a cowboy. He's
Captain Hendry.
yes.
On the way there, they learn that, hey, something is messing with the navigation systems, their magnetic north or whatnot. So somehow they get a bearing on the guy's voice over the freaking radio. I don't know. I guess that's possible. I don't know. He leaves the radio open.
So they can
hone in on the signal.
Hone in on it. Yeah, I don't
know.
really know, but
sure, I'll buy it. They arrive at the North Pole, and the captain goes to see Dr. Carrington. And I wrote, apparently he knows the doctor's secretary, Karen.
It does seem that way.
Apparently they have a thing, and we learn that she can handle her liquor, even though we never see them drinking. But they talk about being in San Francisco or some shit, and apparently she drank him under the table, and he was talking all kinds of stupid shit. Kind of what I do, Karen.
And she left him a note that a bunch of people saw before he did. And I don't know if it was disparaging or not, but there's a lot of banter going on. Because before he can see Dr. Carrington, he has to see his secretary.
Apparently, we learn that a huge object impacted the Earth. They hypothesize that could it be a meteor, especially because of all the magnetic issues they're having? But it did not travel like a meteor. They look at pictures of it seems to move deliberately.
Well, it went up. And they said a meteor would never go up. But before we go any further, we go into Dr. Carrington's lab, and you probably didn't notice it, but I did.
Oh, don't be too
to
sure,
make
Karen.
sure that we know that Dr. Carrington is a proper scientist. Did you see what was on his wall? It was the periodic table, Greg.
Oh, yeah. The huge, it was a freaking huge periodic
yes, it
table.
was. Anytime you want to make someone be a scientist in a movie, you put up the periodic table.
It took up the whole wall, Karen.
It did.
How could you miss it?
How many elements? Well, let's say the periodic table is a way of listing the elements. Elements are listed in the table by the structure of their atoms. This includes how many protons they have, as well as how many electrons they have in their outer shell. From left to right and top to bottom, the elements are listed in order of their atomic number, which is the number of protons in each atom. How many elements would you think are in the periodic table?
So the first number that popped in my mind is 56.
It's 118. It's called periodic because the elements are lined up in cycles or periods from left to right. Elements are lined up in rows based on their atomic number, which we said.
So why is there at the top row, there's only one at one end and one at the other? Why is it like that, Dr. Karen?
Each horizontal row in the table is a period. There are 7 or 8 total periods. The first period is short and only has 2 elements, hydrogen and helium. The 6th period has 32 elements. In each period, the leftmost element has 1 electron in its outer shell, and the rightmost element has a full shell. I don't know, Greg. I'm not a chemist.
Thank you, Dr. Karen.
I'll tell you who invented it.
Cleared it up for me.
Who invented it? And it was Russian chemist Dmitry Mendeleev in 1869.
Russian.
I'll give you one that would be a good trivia question. There's only one letter not in the periodic table. Want to guess what it is? I wouldn't have guessed this letter.
I'm going to say O. No, it can't be O. Never mind.
No, that's a big one.
P.
No, it's J.
It's J. Okay.
But it's the only one not in there. And francium is the rarest element on Earth. There are probably no more than a few ounces of it on Earth at any given time.
Is it worth anything?
It probably is, but I don't know. So anyway, we established if you are a scientist, actually, I have a periodic table up in my basement. So
I have a periodic table of the home haunter hanging in my garage.
There you go.
It's very impressive. And it was designed by Scott Stoll.
So we have different periodic tables.
So boys and girls, if you like Halloween, look up Stolloween. Stolloween. He's quite the paper mache expert.
Awesome.
Moving on. The doctor hypothesizes that the only thing that could have caused the magnetic fluctuation that they're experiencing is 200,000 tons of steel, Karen.
200 or 20,000?
Oh, I'm sorry. 20,000 tons of steel, Karen.
20,000 tons.
So the military men decide to go out and fly out to the crash site. And as they're flying, the Geiger counter starts going off.
Which is bad.
And the
Which is
compass
another
goes crazy.
This thing, if a Geiger counter is going crazy, there's a
They
shit
use it a
ton,
lot.
I
in this
know,
film,
of radiation. And they don't even do anything
Nope. No suits,
to,
no nothing.
I mean, when we worked with, they do mention isotopes and things, and we did work with those things. You were behind plexiglass
Lead,
with,
wearing lead suits.
no, you had plexiglass, which we had very weak
Plexiglass.
radioactive stuff,
Oh,
but
that'll stop it.
But it had, like, if you got it on your shoes, you had to put your shoes away. You would lose those shoes for months until they decayed to a point where you could wear them again. The laissez-faire attitude toward radiation in this, it just kept getting to me.
Well, it's 51.
I know, but
it was after they dropped the hydrogen bomb on Hiroshima.
Knowing
though.
what I know, we had to wear little badges that you had to turn in every month, and it would tell you if you've had too much radioactivity around you or not. I did dump some on my shoes. I lost a good pair of running shoes for a while.
And as they're flying, the compass goes crazy, I wrote. But eventually they land, investigate the crash site with their team of sled dogs.
Back up. So they land, and they're flying around, and they said, do you see anywhere we could land? And the guy said, looks like not a bad place, back
half
a little
mile.
bit.
He said half a mile.
Yeah, back. So I was curious. So it's a half a mile away, and how much area do you need to land a plane, right? You're not going to be a half a mile away at that point because a plane has to land. And this isn't really going to apply to that. That was a big ass plane.
It was. And I was thinking as it was landing, I wonder if it's a sled. It lands on sleds. It doesn't have wheels. It has sleds. It lands on ice. And I'm thinking that probably needs a longer place to land.
I would imagine
I'm sure there's not as much friction with those sleds as there are with wheels. I mean, you can cut the engine, but you're still hauling ass.
Right. Right. Which is not, this isn't appropriate to that, because when they land in water like that, there's resistance.
There is.
Water will slow you down, right?
And
because
there is some resistance to ice, but not a lot, Karen.
I guess So a runway of at least 6,000 feet in length is usually adequate for aircraft weights below approximately 200,000 pounds. Larger aircraft, including wide bodies, will usually require at least 8,000 feet. This is at sea level. I mean, that's over a mile. 5,280 feet is a mile. So you're talking, and you're right. I mean, that thing is slide because it's heavy.
Yeah. There are no reverse thrusters, Karen, to brake.
Right.
There's not even brakes. You're sliding.
So you're talking, they're at least probably 2 miles away from the actual site at that point.
But they land.
Yes, they do. And they hike over. They do have a dog sled carrying some supplies and things.
They investigate the crash site with a team of sled dogs, I wrote. And we see a tail fin sticking, what I assume it's a tail fin sticking out of the ice. And they can kind of see the ship through the ice.
Yeah, they sounds like it.
They determine that it is almost a perfect circle, Karen.
Yeah, they say spread out, find the edges, and then all the men find the edges and put their arms out. And when they do, they form a perfect circle.
And then they start looking at, I think the captain's looking at the medal. I'm not sure why he's looking at the medal. He's a freaking captain, but there's nothing he doesn't know of. And they take some filings for analysis.
Because they're like, bring some tools.
He's got just like a file, just like a regular,
Yep.
Might as well have your nail file out there, Karen, and taking filings. Scotty wants to send a story, but the captain stops him.
It's Air Force info, classified.
Military. Nope. I will let you know.
Not until the general says he can do it.
Has to be cleared. Has to be cleared by Washington or whatever. But they use thermite to uncover the craft.
Yeah, they're going to use thermite bombs. Which, you want to know about thermite bombs?
Well, I know a lot about thermite.
You probably know more than me. I just got a short little bit. So it's
hot. That shit's hot.
Incendiary bombs. There are two types: phosphorus bombs they're less dangerous because they burn at about 250 degrees Fahrenheit. But thermite bombs burn incredibly hot, up to about 4,500 degrees Fahrenheit. And that can melt metal or rock.
Oh yeah, it can.
So if they knew it could melt metal, why didn't they? I guess they didn't have phosphorus bombs, but it seems little.
At one point, they say it's what they use. It's the norm. That's standard operating procedure for blasting
that's true.
shit
They
out
do
of ice.
say standard operating
because they do
procedure.
it a lot.
They do.
There's a large explosion.
It's big.
Apparently, the engine of the craft blew up.
Well, there's one explosion, right? And they're all like,
Thermite.
okay, all clear. And then, oh shit, everybody down. And they basically blow up the ship. And then there's this big oops.
Yeah, they believe the aircraft is destroyed.
At least the technology of what the engine was. So they wanted to study how it got there and everything, and they basically blew up the engine.
So they can't use alien technology to build stealth bombers, Karen?
No, they cannot.
Okay. But they get the Geiger counter out.
And they're disappointed that they can't find any more radioactivity. I guess that's an assumption that it was powered by radioactive energy.
But they do find a man in ice using the Geiger counter. That's how they find him, the body in the ice. They use an axe.
He's radioactive. Wait, there's got to be. Who's sang that song? Radioactive.
Gene Simmons.
No, there's
Gene Simmons
the
solo
Firm.
album.
It's the Firm.
Well, it was Gene Simmons' Kiss solo album first, and then The Firm with Paul Rogers and Jimmy Page. Radioactive. Gene Simmons' song was She's Radioactive. It was called Radioactive, but
of course, Gene Simmons' song was She's Radioactive.
1978, I believe, Karen. And then The Firm in the 80s. Paul Rogers from Bad Company and Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin Boys and Girls.
Your proper history lesson for
there you
today.
Go. But they use axes to cut the block of ice holding the alien.
They say it looks like a man with legs and a head. And they think that someone got out of the saucer and was frozen fast before he could get out of the way or get clear of it.
And then they fly the block of ice back to Alaska. They put it on a plane.
Well, so
no, I guess they fly it back to.
They don't go to Alaska.
No, they go back to the North Pole.
Yeah.
So they fly it back to the North Pole.
Yeah. So they're looking at it and they're saying that the saucer was so hot that when it hit the Earth, it melted all the ice around it. But it's so cold in the North Pole that it froze immediately. So it's not that the person got out and the coldness affected him. He just got stuck in the ice because it was all melted. He was trying to escape the melted ice, and then it froze immediately and froze him in there.
And the source material takes place in Antarctica, right? Which is the South Pole, correct? That's what you said. You said Antarctica.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That is what I said.
I just want to be sure. So Carpenter, once again, his is at the South Pole and we're at the North Pole. So they get back to the North Pole and the captain tells doctors they will not get the body out or examine it until he gets his orders from the
they're showing him
military.
as a by the rules military guy. But the scientist wants to immediately chip it out and examine it.
Yes.
And the military guy's like, nope.
Good day.
They need permission.
They try to send a message to Army headquarters, but there is too much interference. Can't get through. But we do learn that apparently there's been a leak somewhere, Karen, and so Congress wants more information. And the newspapers want more information. I was kind of curious. Who do you think the leak is?
I don't know. I was wondering too. But this is where I wrote.
Probably one of them damn scientists, like Karen.
Yeah. Why does the doctor seem like a villain? He just looks evil.
Sergeant tells Captain Hendry that he is worried about Lieutenant McPherson guarding the body and the block of ice. He's starting to freak out. And I made a note of that because I thought he was going to be the first one infected, but no, that doesn't happen here, does it?
He says who is it that's watching him? McPherson is having kittens. I thought that was kind of funny. Some lingo.
So then we see Nikki and the captain, and they share a smoke, Karen, a Marlboro.
She's like, what's really going on?
Although
She
look,
wants to know.
the pack of cigarettes look like a Lucky Strike.
I was going to
Pack
say
of
they didn't look
cigarettes.
filtered to me, so they look like Lucky Strikes.
And Nikki wants to know what's going on. And then I have
he-
the captains all tied up. She tied the captain up and is feeding him drinks. So
Yes,
there is
because
alcohol use.
there is a little alcohol use. So she says, I'll buy you a drink. And then he wants to start over. They're flirting.
She like a
No, the reason she ties his hands.
dominatrix or something, Karen.
No, you wish.
And what's
No.
up with her bras? Is that how they made bras in the 1950s? They were like pointy like that?
Yes. The reason she ties him up is because last time they were together, he drank so much and he became an octopus.
Oh, he's a little handy.
He was all handsy with her. So that's why the only reason she would have a drink with him now is if she got to tie him up, and they joke, haha. And then when we see him, his hands are tied behind his back and she's feeding him a drink.
Yes.
It's a joke, but they're kissy facing.
Yeah, Nikki kisses him. Captain frees himself from the ropes.
Of course.
And she doesn't know until he asks her to light a smoke for him. And he lights it and then puts it out immediately. And I'm like, whatever.
Wasteful, Greg. It's wasteful.
Wasteful. So then we see Corporal Barnes relieving Lieutenant McPherson watching the block of ice.
And
again,
earlier...
I'm making note of their names because I think it's going to mean something, but it doesn't.
We should note, somebody says, is McPherson okay? And they say, yeah, I got him set up in there with an electric blanket. He's fine. But he's starting to freak out because the ice is clearing a little bit, they say, and you can now see the face, and it looks like it's looking at you and watching you.
Yes.
So the next guy who comes in,
Barnes,
is freaked out by that. So he finds the blanket, puts it over it so it won't be looking at him anymore.
Do you think he knows it's an electric blanket, Karen?
Well, you would think he'd hear the dripping behind him. But no, he does not hear that. Now you could have someone, they have a Walkman in, or earbuds in or whatever. But then he's just sitting there reading a book and they show it dripping like a clogged gutter. And he does not hear it.
Yeah, he puts the blanket over the block of ice so he doesn't have to look at the alien. And then we are shown like the wires leading to like some control box. So we guess know it's an electric blanket. And then the ice begins to melt. And then the dogs out in the snow, they're not too happy, Karen. Not that they're out in the snow, but what's going on inside.
Yeah, for some reason they can sense it.
And then we see a shadow coming up behind Barnes.
I thought that was a neat shot.
That's all right.
Well, but back then it's very John Carpenter to do something. I know this isn't him, but to do a lot with a little. I mean, you knew immediately that something very big and tall was behind him. Mm-hmm. I thought it was cool.
So Barnes pulls his Colt 1911 firearm, Karen, and shoots at the monster or the thing.
It does no good.
It doesn't. I wrote Barnes hysterical.
Until he gets water thrown in his face, and then he's perfectly fine.
He tells the rest of the men that the thing is alive. It was coming at him, and he shot at it with his Colt 1911 standard military issue firearm. Then we see the captain and the men. They go to investigate and find the ice melted and the body missing. And apparently the thing is outside fighting with the dogs.
Yeah, the door blows open, so they know it went out the door. And the dogs are going crazy, and they look out and they see it, and they think it'll be torn apart, but it's killing the dogs.
It runs away, and the men go out. They find a couple of the dogs are dead, but they were able to take his arm with him.
Yeah, they got an arm.
So they got an arm. Then we see the scientist examining the arm, and apparently it has sharp claws at the edge of its fingers, much like thorns on a rose, Karen.
Yes, they say thorn-fingered.
And they may say a couple times, it's amazingly strong. I don't know. I guess they're just, I don't know how they know that, but whatever.
I think because they say it was starting to walk away and 3 dogs were hanging off of him.
And there's no blood in the arm, Karen. And there's no
animal tissue.
No arterial structure or nerve endings. It is porous like a vegetable.
Yeah, I thought, oh, it's like a sponge.
So
That's why
obviously there's no muscle mass either. So I don't know how that they know it's strong, but whatever.
well, think of a tree doesn't have muscle mass. That's why bullets don't harm it because it's vegetable matter.
I can make a cabbage disappear with a handgun, Karen. I'm pretty sure, but whatever.
Well, yeah, but one hole in it is not necessarily going to kill it.
Well, it depends on your firearm, Karen.
Well, with the Colt, whatever standard issue
1911,
military
45
issue.
caliber 1911.
I mean, it's big. It's the size of a Frankenstein.
It is.
It's not going to
At one
bleed
point,
out.
they say it's 8 feet long. They hypothesize it's 8 feet long, but
It's not going to bleed out.
because there's no blood.
Right.
So they compare it to a carrot, and here's where you see the doctor talking about, it was a vegetable evolution from vegetable, unlike us, Karen.
Yeah, we came from, he mentions worms and fish evolved into humans on our planet. Maybe on their planet, maybe the vegetables evolved. And this is where he says its brain is not handicapped by emotional or sexual feelings.
And then the botanist tells us all about the century plant and the telegram vine.
Yeah, I looked those up. I don't think that's true. Those plants exist, but the way he described them is not factual, I don't think.
Okay.
I mean, the telegraph vine you can see it move. They call it the dancing plant, but it doesn't communicate with other vines hundreds of miles away. And then I couldn't find what's the other one called?
Century plant.
The century plant is a cactus. And I couldn't find anything that said it was carnivorous. Yeah. So I don't know. They use a lot of the right words in here. I don't know why they couldn't have found better examples. The science isn't great, but a lot of the words are appropriate, Yeah.
And one of them says that's one for Ripley. I made a note, so I'm assuming they're talking about Ripley, believe it or not.
I would guess, yes.
Then they find a seed pod
in the hand.
And Dr. Carrington seems very excited, I wrote.
Yes. His villainous face is happy.
And then the arm starts moving.
And a 20-degree temperature rise.
Yeah, hypothesize it lives on blood.
Yeah, which is weird because there's no blood in it.
When it needs blood, it eats blood.
So it absorbed the blood from the dog that was covered, that had covered it. And now it's all ready to go.
Then the captain wants to go looking for the thing. Dr. Carrington warns him that it is a stranger in a strange land, Karen. Just like the Iron Maiden song, Stranger in a Strange Land.
Going for a coverall. Only crimes were committed against it. It woke in a block of ice, was attacked by dogs and shot. So scientist is trying to say it doesn't know what's happening.
And the captain tells the radio man to lock himself in and that his gun will do no good if the thing enters.
Carrington wants to be able to communicate with it. He says that. And Scotty wants to take a picture before they chop it up and make a salad out of it.
Then they begin searching the greenhouse for the thing. And only the botanist has the key. I wrote that because I thought that might be important.
I agree. I said that too.
But it's not.
No, it's not.
Because this isn't John Carpenter's The Thing.
It's kind of cool they have gardens in there, though.
Yeah, it is. But, the scientists kind of like...
They're shifty in there.
Yeah, they are. They're shifty. And they kind of like rush the military out and they all stay in.
Yeah, and the military...
If I was military, I'd be like... Oh, no, you don't.
Why are they staying in there? There's no questioning of that at all.
There isn't. But the scientists all stay in the greenhouse and they discover that there has been a blast of cold weather into the greenhouse and someone has entered and locked the door. So there's a container in there.
That nobody bothered to open.
No, but they open it and find a dead sled dog drained of its blood.
Yes, I was not happy about that.
And the scientists all agree not to tell the military about what they have found. Because of science!
They think that the creature heard them coming, stashed the dog, and ran out the door.
Yes. Military men arrived from their search and they found nothing. Out looking for the thing.
And there's one other thing I want to mention here that has absolutely nothing to do with anything, but I could not get past Carrington's pants. Did you notice them?
No, Karen, I wasn't looking at his
Well,
pants.
everybody had like khakis on, and I don't know if they were pajama pants. They weren't militant, they were like patterned pants.
Carrington, the scientist.
Yes,
Okay.
I kept thinking he almost looked like he was in pajamas. He had like a smoking jacket on and these patterned pants. It was driving me crazy. What is up with his pants? I see it's in my notes about 4 times. I can't get over his pants.
Well,
He's styling, I guess.
We did not talk about fashion in this film, Karen. You should have mentioned that earlier and what you liked. And
No, it's just I don't know if it was the fashion or not, because everybody else looks pretty normal, but his pants were just out of this world.
so then one of the scientists arrives in the room and he has been attacked by the thing. And he tells the military men that it's in the greenhouse and 2 of the doctors were hung by the beams and their throats were cut.
Yeah, so they're upside down. So I thought that was pretty vivid imagery.
But we didn't see it.
We didn't see it, but I think describing it, especially when you compare it with
Gutted like a pig.
Coming in the next couple scenes, it's when you think about it, it is horrific.
Would have been better if we saw it.
True.
So the captain and the men open the door to the greenhouse. The thing attacks them and they shut the door on his arm. They barricade the door. So the thing's in there.
It's a startle scare, and I'll say it got me. I jumped.
Captain Hendry confronts Dr. Carrington and he confines the doctor to his quarters. Is that what he does?
They fight again. Same thing. I'm in charge. But then the military always wins.
Because they come at him with a gun and say, as you were, doctor.
They do block both entrances
to the greenhouse.
Yes. I don't know why there was an outdoor entrance to the greenhouse, but
don't know. Emergency exit, probably. Then we see Dr. Carrington telling the other scientist about the 2 casualties. He tells them the thing is reliant on them only for nourishment. Only science can conquer him, Karen. All other weapons will be powerless against it.
Yes, the creature is more intelligent and powerful than we are.
Apparently, Carrington is suffering from sleep deprivation.
He does say he has the same attitude towards us as we have towards a field of cabbages. And the cabbages don't fight back. Yes, he's sleep deprived.
Dr. Carrington tells them that he found, or he planted the seed that they found.
Well, what he does, so it's an interesting way to move the story along, is I have Miss Nikki, read his notes. So she informs everyone, including us, what he's discovered.
What he's done.
He planted the seeds from the arm in the earth that is saturated with plasma from the blood bank. He figured that out from the condition of the dog in the greenhouse, and it indicated that blood was a primal factor in the cultivation of the seeds. So he started at 2 a.m. The first sprouts appeared through the soil in only 5 hours. Every 2 hours, he's giving it more plasma. In only 2 hours, the sprouts began to take a definite form.
And the scientists apparently don't believe him, so he goes to show them, and we see plants with pods pulsating, Karen.
I thought that was pretty cool, too. You know they're balloons, but it looked, he's got a little nursery back there, and he's growing aliens.
Yeah, and one of the professors listens to the pods with a stethoscope, Karen.
Yes, and he describes it as the sound of a wail of a newborn child. He's
hungry.
Pretty affected by it. He's a little anxious after he does it.
Scientists hypothesize that maybe the thing came to Earth to plant the seeds and populate.
And take over, yeah. Make thousands of them, an army.
Using the human race as food. Or anything else, really. Just anything that has everything got blood.
Yeah, they could use the dogs. But they say human race. That's the scary part. But there's a lot of things on Earth they could use.
Captain Hendry comes to see Nikki, and he wants to know what happened to all the plasma he delivered there earlier.
Yeah, I don't know why he looked for that, but he did.
Because I think the one doctor needs blood. And they're giving him a
Oh,
transfusion instead of
that's right.
plasma.
They're giving him a live transfusion instead of plasma. And he wants to know why.
And then Nikki agrees to let the captain see the notes from Dr. Carrington.
And then Hendry and Carrington have yet another confrontation.
Captain wants the plants burned. Burn them.
Well, he does say something interesting. So in the lab, what Carrington has set up is 2 bottles. They're glass bottles of plasma, like back in the day. And they've got lines out of them, and they're going into feeding the plants underneath. And Captain Hendry says, this is what your colleagues are doing in the greenhouse right now. And he points to the plasma bottles. So the men are hanging upside down in the greenhouse and bleeding out onto the plants. And that's exactly the same setup. I thought that was moving, I guess, in some way, and horrific when you think about how it was set up. And it is exactly the same, only it's people, not bottles of plasma.
But we don't see it. For me, it was not as horrific. But now that you say it, and I can imagine it, I can see what you're saying. But
he's saying this is exactly what your buddies, your friends, that you have been up here in this area with for God knows how long, they are hanging there doing this. I just thought that's pretty intense for me. Yeah. I thought it was really poignant. There wasn't a lot in this movie that was really frightful or horrific. And I thought, when I thought about that was intense to me.
Then they get messages from the general telling the captain to keep the thing alive until he arrives.
But he can't arrive soon because of weather. So weather is why he can't get there.
But the military men try to figure out a way to kill the thing. And they think that maybe they could burn it.
Well, and Carrington's like, well, wait, you have to follow orders. You're not allowed to burn it. Stop acting like a bunch of scared schoolboys. He calls them schoolboys, frightened schoolboys.
And then the Geiger counter starts going off. Apparently the thing is getting closer. They come up with a plan to cover it with kerosene and shoot it with a flare gun if it comes in.
Because they're all sitting around saying, well, how do we kill a vegetable? And Nikki's the one, because she's a woman, says bake it, put it in a stew,
boil it,
fry it, boil it. She knows what to do with the vegetable. And then they're like, oh, we'll burn it.
The thing enters and they torch it. It jumps out the window. It jumps out the window and runs away, setting the whole room ablaze. And the men put the fire out. And then they come up with a plan to use electricity to torch it instead of kerosene. Then they discover that it's getting very cold very rapidly at the base. The heat has been turned off, Karen.
Yes. So the thing has gone outside, and I think they turned off the oil. So there's no oil going to the heaters.
Yeah, the thing did.
Yes.
So then they think that the thing will next try to cut the electricity. So they send men to the generator room to protect it.
They send everyone there. I think there's a little heat generated in there too.
Captain sends everyone to the generator room, and they try to construct an electrical trap for the thing using metal fencing, I wrote.
One of the men, I don't know who it is because I don't know the names, but he comes up with all the ideas, and it's not the captain coming up with the ideas. Mm-hmm. It's maybe the corporal or something. I don't know. It's one of the
Barnes. I think it's Barnes.
But he comes up with multiple ideas. He's the idea guy. He's putting it all together.
That's like me. I'm the idea guy here.
Yeah, that's right. He's making it happen.
So then the general sends another message, not to destroy the thing. Doctor tells the captain to listen to his superiors. And the captain orders the doctor removed.
He says, another message from DC, now use every means necessary to protect the creature. Well, protect the lives in your party, but protect the prisoner. And the scientist says you can't ignore orders. And then Carrington says that you can't, he says that a lot. You can't ignore orders. But, Hendry, he's a cowboy. And he says, you can testify to that effect at my court martial. So he's basically going to do whatever he wants. He's
I said
going
good
rogue.
day.
Going
Good day.
rogue.
So then the Geiger counter starts going off again. And right here I wrote, apparently their rubber-soled boots will protect them from the electrical shock trap.
So they've set up this elaborate electrical shock trap, like you said, and it has to get to a certain point on the walkway. There's almost like walkways. So the way they've set it up, if he doesn't get, he has to get to an exact spot on the walkway. They throw a switch and he'll be electrocuted.
Blade switch.
Yes. And he'll be electrocuted.
The thing enters, it comes at them, and the lights go out. Apparently Carrington turned off the generator, motherfucker.
I thought that was good. He's like,
I would just shoot him at this point. And in real life, that's exactly what would happen to him. He was a casualty.
They would have at least tied him up.
No, they'd have put a bullet in his brain. But then Carrington pulls a gun on him and tells them to get away. He will not let them destroy the thing. And he's dead, definitely now.
Yeah, he wants to communicate with it. He tries to talk to it.
Yeah, he goes up to it and says, I want to help you.
I'm your friend.
Whatever.
You're wiser than anything on earth. Use your intelligence and know that I'm a scientist and I'm just here to help you. And then
men overtake Carrington, turn the generator back on. Carrington confronts the thing, and then the thing just like slaps him aside.
It says Carrington just gets busted by the creature.
Here you go. Then the thing comes toward them.
Well, he's not gone. Don't say that.
Know.
He's not.
We don't see him again.
No, but they talk about him.
Then the thing comes towards them. Captain throws his blade switch, and the thing is electrocuted. And they all watch as it goes up in smoke.
Yeah, they don't want anything left, so they go for a long time.
Yep. Captain Henry tells Scotty he can take his picture now. And just then he passes out.
There's your
comic relief.
Yep.
Then the military burns all Carrington's notes and the arm. There'd be no record, Karen, just like Mission Impossible.
They say Dr. Carrington is only slightly injured with a broken collarbone and a headache.
Oh, is that what they say?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make a note of that because apparently I didn't care. So then the men start trying to talk the captain into settling down with Nikki, Karen.
She seems into it.
Yeah. As long as she can tie him up. Giving him alcohol. But they make radio contact with Alaska. Scotty reports his story to the reporters in Alaska. And he gives them a warning, Karen. Watch the skies everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the sky. The end. Credits. And I wrote Nikki gets top billing. So she must have been the biggest star.
She was pretty.
Margaret Sheridan.
She played that role well. The tough girl, that can be. I mean, she is working in the North Pole, so you got to give her some credit for being tough.
This was her first film, and she gets top billing? Nah, I think there was something going on there, Karen. She didn't do a lot of movies after it, but this was her first freaking film. She died at age 55 of lung cancer. Probably all those filterless cigarettes they were smoking, yep. Karen.
All those lucky strikes.
All right, what'd you think of our my UFO cocktail, Karen?
I thought I was going to hate that drink, but it's not bad. It's not bad.
Is it the best Campari drink you've ever had?
It's the best Campari drink so far. I think it's either the orange curaçao or something counteracts the bitterness, and it's not so bitter.
Not so bitter. I still taste it. Every drink, I can still taste it.
I still do too, but it's not as strong to me.
No, it's not. It's just a flavor. It's not a...
Either it's the vermouth or I don't know, but will I say I liked it? No. I will say I didn't hate it. I will not make it again, but.
I'm going to try to make every drink from now on have Campari in it just so I can get rid of that bottle, Karen.
Well, that's unfortunate because I'll be wasting good vodka and things.
All right. It wasn't bad. Anything we learned today, Karen?
Oh, boy. Incendiary bombs. Is that how you say it? Or incendiary bombs?
Oh, no. Incendiary is what I would say, but I've been wrong before, Karen.
Runway distance for landing planes.
Yeah.
Periodic table facts. Who goes there? Source material. That might be it. Couple heavy metal references in there.
You
The
told us why
firm.
we shake cocktails.
Yes. Oh, that's true. No, why we pour into a glass after shaking it in ice, why we pour it into a glass with ice.
With ice. Yeah.
Yes.
Seems like a lot of wasted energy to me, but whatever. We did learn a little bit about the Army, Air Force, and the Air Force and
When Truman was president.
Truman. Yeah, President Truman. All right. I believe the next film was your choice then, Karen. Is it? Is it not?
It is.
And what film have you chosen for us?
I have chosen the 2004 movie Shaun of the Dead.
Any reason you chose that film, Karen?
Well, that podcast will come out on the 27th,
It will.
and Shaun of the Dead debuted on the 24th.
Did. Have you seen it before?
No.
I have.
It's funny. I was listening to a podcast.
I think I have. My son
And-
probably has it on disc. So
and they were talking to the star of it. And I just thought, oh, I've never seen that. And so I'm like, I'll put it on my list of ones that I would like to see, because he was an interesting guest on the podcast for no other reason. He didn't talk about the movie particularly, but they were talking about how much they liked that movie and how clever it was and all that. So I thought, oh, I'll write it down. And then when I went to fill in our count, we have a calendar that we put our movies into.
So what you're saying is you were listening to another podcast, Karen.
I was. Well, sometimes I
Kinda
drive
like
long
cheating.
distances, Greg, and I run out of our podcasts. Well, it was this or an Elvira movie, because her birthday is that week also, I think. So you're lucky I picked this one.
Am I?
I've watched the Elvira movie. Well, I've seen one, and I think they're funny, but most other people do not.
I think they're funny.
I enjoy them.
Listen, I don't think it's her birthday. Elvira came out that week.
Oh, okay.
Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, came out
Oh,
on the
yeah.
30th.
Okay. Sorry. But I would watch that one. But I've never seen
she did
this.
have a birthday on the 17th, though. So either one.
Would have been a double
You had-
whammy.
You had a double. You could have had a duel.
Ooh. Next
Duel.
year.
Okay. Do you have a cocktail?
I do.
And what would that be?
It's called the zombie cocktail.
I see what you did there, Karen.
It's a big leap.
What do we need to make the zombie cocktail?
2 ounces of white rum, 1.75 ounces of dark rum, 1 ounce of triple sec, 2 ounces of orange juice, 1 ounce of lime juice, 1 ounce of simple syrup, and a 1/4 ounce of grenadine.
I love it already.
Supposedly, it's called the zombie cocktail because when you drink it, it turns you into a zombie.
Well, we will find out, Karen.
Seems pretty strong, so we'll see.
What, 3 ounces of alcohol, more or less?
Almost 4.
I look forward to enjoying a zombie.
Yeah, see, I pick drinks that you'll like, unlike you who pick drinks that you know I'm not going to like.
Because I have a whole bottle of this stuff. I need to get rid
I
of
have
it.
a whole
Karen.
bottle of a lot of stuff, Greg.
Do you?
Yes.
It doesn't evaporate.
Not like at your house. There's
Okay.
something weird at your house that makes things go evaporate extra fast.
All right. Anyone you need to thank this week?
Well, as always, Greg, I want to thank our listener. There's an awful lot of podcasts out there. Thank you for spending time with us. Who do you need to thank, Greg?
I need to thank Terrence Jones, who commented on our Sleepy Hollow episode.
Ooh, was it a positive comment?
It was. He said how much he enjoyed the film, and I, commented back saying, yeah, we had forgotten how good it was. We hadn't seen it since we were little babies.
Youngins.
And, of course, I need to thank the band, Verse 13, for providing all the music and the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Thanks so much for listening. Want to keep in touch? Check out our website, scaryspirits.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Scary Spirits Podcast. Find us on YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email us at info@scaryspirits.com. To help us grow the podcast, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We really do appreciate your support. And as always, please drink responsibly.